Welcome back to Frederick Advice Givers, episode 159. I am Eric Verdi. To my left here is Meaghan Delawter. D-Law is your law firm, right? That's the name of it?
Yes.
So Meaghan and I met through a mutual friend about 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, about that.
Okay. And she came across to me as somebody that was really caring and compassionate in her law practice. I think at the time you were at a different firm?
I was.
Okay.
Yep.
But my interactions with Meaghan were spectacular, and I was super pleased with her interactions with our mutual client and with our friend. And we've kept in touch over the last couple of years and decided to have Meaghan on here now that she's opened up her new practice in downtown Frederick, right across from the courthouse, right?
Right across from the courthouse.
So, I mean, this has got to be like Lawyer Row, right?
It is. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
It is Lawyer Row. West Patrick is Lawyer Row. This cul-de-sac here is Lawyer Row.
Okay, so where are we?
So we are at 129 West Patrick, Unit 1.
Okay.
There's a little cul-de-sac back here that's filled with kind of attorneys and some other practices as well.
Okay.
Right across from the courthouse, right across from the parking garage in West Patrick.
So I guess when you have to run over there and do a whatever you do, subpoena, I'll get into that, exactly
nice.
what you do. You can just walk across,
it's
right?
Nice and convenient.
Awesome. All right, Meaghan, so before we get into the heart of the interview, tell us about yourself, your origin story. Where did you grow up? What do you enjoy doing in your spare time?
Sure. So I grew up in Thurmont, so just 15 minutes north of here. I was raised in a police family, law enforcement family. Went to Catoctin High School, went on to do my undergrad at Franklin Marshall in Lancaster.
Okay.
But born and raised here, always been in the county. Moved to Frederick maybe 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Frederick with my husband, who's a teacher at Whittier Elementary. And I have a 3-year-old little boy and a dog named Bo, because we love Natty Bo beer.
Nice.
So yeah, that's kind of where I grew up and my little story of my background.
So your husband's a teacher?
He is.
What's he, elementary, obviously?
5th grade.
Okay.
Yep, 5th grade.
How long has he been teaching?
8 or 9 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
At Whittier the entire time?
No, he was in Loudoun County for a year.
Okay.
And then Washington County for the bulk of it. And then spent the last 2 or 3 years in Frederick.
Awesome. Yeah, my wife's a teacher. 2 of my cousins are teachers, and awesome.
He has more patience than I do.
Oh, yes, obvious. Yeah, of course. I mean, you're kind of your personality is laid back when we're sitting here talking, but I've seen you when you can get aggressive and be persistent in getting your point across.
A little intense, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You've been on the other side of that.
Yes, I have. I've seen you fight for your clients. So, why did you choose one? I guess because your husband and your location growing up in Thurmont, but why did you choose Frederick to start a practice?
So I always wanted to stay here. I knew that once I became an attorney, I was going to stay put here. My network was here, my family's here, so I knew I wanted to stay put. I actually talked about opening up a shop in Thurmont, but most people are traveling to Frederick and other areas, so I wanted to make it more convenient for people who are working and are stepping out during the day to come meet with me. But Frederick, I mean, it's great. The downtown atmosphere is great. There's work here. I know people here, so Frederick just seemed like the right fit. Cool.
All right, so I want to take this back to a personal level. What's the last purchase that you splurged on for yourself, your family, or Bo?
Oh, so my husband's birthday was just 6 days ago.
Okay.
So I bought him an Apple Watch.
Okay.
Because
is that what you're wearing there?
So I have an Apple Watch, which I've had for a while, but he didn't have one. And what do you get someone that has everything? Obviously something they don't have.
Right.
So I got him an Apple Watch for his birthday.
The new 4?
No, I got him the 3 that has like, I don't know, some special thing attached to it. It's better than mine.
Okay.
It's better than mine.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what hobby could you spend hours doing, Meaghan?
Golf.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm a big golfer. I played in college.
Did you?
I could golf every day. It's my thing.
What are your 2 favorite courses around?
Maryland National, and I play at Maryland National a lot.
Okay.
Probably Maryland National, Whiskey Creek.
Okay.
But Maryland National is kind of our home course.
So. Yeah, the last time I saw you was actually at Holly Hills, right?
Yeah. For Glow for Home, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
for the golf tournament.
Yeah, it was we were in the dark, and I was like,
Yeah.
Eric, is that you?
Yeah, I know. That was actually the only time I played golf. I love golf too, but
Yeah.
owning a business, as you know, there's not a bunch of free time.
Makes it a little difficult.
Yeah. So, do you travel and play? Do you play with your husband? Do you play with friends?
Yeah, so we travel. Every time we travel, like during the year and stuff, we try to find a course wherever we are.
Okay.
My husband actually taught me how to play. So he taught me when we were 16.
Oh, okay. So you and did your husband go to Thurmont?
He was raised. He graduated from Catoctin.
Okay.
He grew up in Frederick and then transferred to Catoctin and lived in Thurmont.
Okay.
But he taught me to play at 16. And then I went on to play in college, which was pretty awesome opportunity. So we play a lot together. I play a little bit, business with clients and stuff like that. But we try to get in tournaments for charity stuff through the county. But
awesome.
yeah, mostly with him.
Awesome. So let's talk about your law practice, D-Law.
Yep.
What type of practice do you practice?
Yeah, so the majority of it's family law. So divorce, custody, child support. I do some adoptions. The rest of it, I would say, is estate planning, estate administration, and some general litigation matters. So contract disputes, things of that nature. But the bulk of it is family law, domestic work.
Okay, and how do you go about getting your business?
Getting my business?
Mm-hmm.
So most of it's word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, it's word of mouth. Previous clients, referring other people, people in the business community who have met me at different events or different organizations have referred clients. That's probably the bulk of it. Word of mouth has been really the biggest thing at this point, but it took a good 5 years or so for that all to kind of fall into place.
Absolutely.
And just people get to know you.
Right.
Clients want to have a relationship. They want to trust who they're with, so they need to get referrals from other people who they trust to send them to.
It's interesting you say that most of your business is referrals. I think small businesses, you're a small business, I'm a small business, the backbone of any successful business, and any successful small business in particular, is built on the back of referrals.
Yep.
Somebody comes to me, I need estate planning, I'm getting divorced, I need, some counseling, I need family law, and I can refer you as somebody and then give you a backstory that how you helped a client of mine and the steps that you took, without giving away specific details of that client relationship. But it carries much more weight than just going and looking at Google reviews or Facebook reviews.
Yeah.
When a friend, somebody that you trust, can refer you to somebody, then it carries much more weight.
Absolutely. And it helps me too. I ask a lot. Every time someone calls or emails and they're looking for a consultation, I always ask who referred them.
Right.
Because it helps me. It helps me understand how they got to me and kind of what they're looking for and also where they came from. So it's beneficial to me too.
Absolutely. So what's that drive inside of you that keeps you going, especially now since you're out on your own?
Yeah, so it's really, honestly, it's serving others. That's really what motivates me. That's what gets me going. I want my clients to understand that this isn't a client mill. We're not here pushing clients in and out the door.
Right.
We actually have time. We'll spend the time with each client. So that's important for me, is serving others and spending that time. Most people that come in here are in a transition phase, right? I mean, they're going through something difficult, whether it's a divorce or a custody situation or a death in the family. They're going through something pretty tough, and it's a transition phase. So that's why we have all of this stuff here to help with that. So I'm not just dealing with a legal matter in most cases. I'm dealing with, kind of rock bottom situations at times. So serving others and helping in those instances is really important to me.
So I have found, like, doctors and lawyers, attorneys. Call yourself a lawyer and attorney?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. Both.
So doctors and attorneys, they're very good at what they do because they've had the education, and it takes so many years of medical practice and law practice to get licensed, right?
Yeah.
To practice. They're good at the logistics of their day-to-day activities. They're not so good about growing their business.
Yeah.
Do you see that too?
Yeah.
And I see you. I mean, you've got, this D-Law. You've got these neat little, you're doing a very good job branding and marketing yourself. So where did you learn that? Like, where's that come from?
So you'll see, like in this, my little motto is uniquely different, a uniquely different legal experience, and that's important to me. I feel like this profession can be kind of stuffy, and kind of, it's this professionalism, but people take that as though it needs to be stuffy. But I wanted to make it more modern, and I wanted to marry kind of the Google and the Amazon feel into the legal practice, and that's kind of the motivation for doing things like this. I want people that come in that door to want to be here, as opposed to, oh man, I need to go see my lawyer again, right? I want them to actually want to be here. So I want to make it kind of an upbeat atmosphere, laid back, have stuff like this on the wall, have stuff like that for them to take home. I mean, we have t-shirts, we have sweatshirts, and it's, it's that feel of, hey, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this culture. So that's important to me. The culture is important to me, and this stuff here helps.
Right. So what advice, and how long have you been in business by yourself?
By myself, we're coming up on 2 years. This December will be 2 years.
It's been
wow.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize it's been that long.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I think about it, that's crazy.
So what advice would you give somebody that's just starting out as an entrepreneur, not specifically a practice, but as an entrepreneur?
Leap.
Yeah.
Leap and have faith.
Go for it.
Leap and have faith. And understand that there's not one right way to do things.
Right.
So for so long I was told by people, you need to do it this way, you need to do it this way, and that's really not true, and that's where uniquely different comes in, because there isn't one right way.
Right.
And I think people are gonna get in that mindset of there's only one way of doing this legal profession and this is it, and it's not true. And you'll see that. I mean, you're starting to see that around it. There's no one right way. Right,
and there's no perfect time to go out on your own either.
No, it's never perfect.
Right.
It's never perfect, and it's very scary, but you gotta leap.
So what is on the flip side of that, what's a bad piece of advice, and you kind of already touched on this, but what's a bad piece of advice somebody gave you that hasn't turned out like they said it would?
Bad piece of advice, it really does come back to this, there's one right way. And believing that one right way has to dictate how you're going to do things is the worst piece of advice, because you lose yourself, right? You can't have your unique self come out if you're doing it some other way that somebody told you is the right way to do something. And you lose yourself, and then you're not serving your clients to the best of your ability because you're just kind of walking through the motions, right?
Right.
So be you, run things how you think is appropriate, and how best to serve others is really the biggest thing.
So Meaghan, in the last 3 years, and I have a feeling I know what this answer is going to be, in the last 3 years, what's one choice that you've made to let us to where we are today?
So starting this practice.
Okay.
Leaping and starting my own practice. So my motto behind all of this, and you'll see if you go up in my office, there's a huge print on the wall of a big lion. And the reason behind that is of the book called Chase the Lion by Mark Batterson. That book pretty much encouraged me to take that step and to chase the lion, this firm being the lion, and step out and do my own thing. I pretty much had been toying with that idea because I wasn't happy in the circumstances I was in, and read that book and woke up the next morning and was like, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
So that book, all of his books actually, has a couple others, so you have to check them out.
So in your practice, how many people do you have? Do you have paralegals? How's that work? What's your structure?
So I have 2 assistants. One's an intern who is a student at Mount St. Mary's. And the other assistant that I have, Meredith, is someone that I worked with actually through Rotary.
Okay.
But Katie is a student at Mount St. Mary's. So I have two assistants. We'll grow. I don't know what the timeline looks like, but we'll definitely grow from there.
Awesome. We're in a great location here.
Yeah.
I love your office space.
Oh, it's perfect. So, funny story, if I can.
Yeah.
I actually started in this very office. So behind this wall here was my very first office that I ever practiced law in, with Seymour Stern.
Oh, really?
So Seymour owned this building in the front building, and my uncle actually built those 4 walls right there so that I would have an office.
That is so cool.
So yeah, full circle.
Yeah, Seymour's been around Frederick forever.
Yeah,
anybody
long
that's been
time.
around Frederick knows the name Seymour Stern.
Yep.
All right, so Meaghan, I've had the pleasure of sitting across the microphone in 158 other interviews. I learn a lot by asking questions. It's how people learn, is asking questions. But I want to flip the script and have you ask me a question.
Can I ask you a funny question?
Sure.
So how was it sitting on the other side of this questioning when you testified in one of my cases?
It was absolutely terrifying. Absolutely one of the most terrifying experiences. I knew the facts.
Yeah.
Right. I knew exactly what had happened in our case. And it was obviously, I do real estate. It was in a real estate matter, and I know real estate.
Yeah.
So I was confident in everything that I had said going up to and the questioning. But just really, my biggest thing is I didn't want to disappoint our client, our mutual client. I wanted to make sure that the outcome, as it was pretty evident with you and I looking at everything, was in favor of our client.
Sure.
But I didn't want to do anything or jeopardize anything that would cost our client any heartache.
So that's how I feel sitting here, right? On the other side of things. I don't want to disappoint you
You're not gonna, no.
in your video. No, I'm just
No,
kidding.
this is great. This is great. So there's very few instances in my day-to-day activities, and I tell everybody, like, real estate and what I do is either delivering great news to a client. Okay, you got multiple offers, or your contract got accepted, or something happened, or you're delivering very bad news. Your septic failed and it's going to cost you $20,000, or there were multiple offers and your offer didn't get accepted. So that's real estate is very high and low.
Yeah.
And I knew going into that. There's actually 2 times we had to do this, right? I knew going into both meetings, both times in front of, I guess it was a judge in orphans court or whatever it was. That the outcome was either going to be high, really good for our client, or really bad for our client. I mean, is that so?
Big stakes.
Is that how your day-to-day activity is? Your outcomes are either for your client or against your client, right?
They're either really, really good and we're really, really happy, or they're not so good and I have an unhappy client.
Right.
There's some middle ground. There's some middle ground in between. I mean, when you go into that courthouse, not everyone's getting what they ask for, right? You might get a little bit of what you're asking for, but you might not get some other things. So there is some middle ground in there, but the bulk of it, I mean, it's someone else's life. It's not life or death, but it's someone else's life that, I have a stake in, so to speak, in how I present that case over there in the courthouse. So,
So how do you deal with the times when it's bad news? I mean, because that's something that I don't struggle with, because I've done it for 16 years, but it eats at me.
Yeah.
When I'm not giving great news to my clients, I take it personal. Like, how do you deal with it on a personal level?
Pray.
Yeah.
Pray.
Yeah.
I mean, pray that I've done as much as I can do.
Right.
And I've helped the client as much as I can help the client. And, pray that it will work out, that there's a reason behind it, whatever that reason may be. But before I even go in that courthouse, I say a prayer. And the prayer is not to win. The prayer is not, let me win this case and let my client get everything. It's just, let me present the best possible case that I can present for my client. And let me speak well, let me deliver well, let me do all of these things well, so that whatever the outcome is, I know I've done as much as I can do.
So what's the most difficult? I guess there's different people that you present to. There's could be like an orphans court, which is like 3 or 4 orphans judges or whatever, right?
Yep.
There's a trial where there can be 12 jurors
So I don't do jury trials in my cases.
Okay.
Because you can't have a jury trial in divorce cases.
Okay.
So I have a judge.
Okay.
So I'm used to talking to one judge or one magistrate.
Okay.
For trials or court conferences. But orphans court, you can have 3 judges or less, actually. But yeah, so I'm used to standing in front of one judge or a magistrate most of the times.
Okay. And then how often do you and the other party come to a compromise
Oh, a lot.
before going to that judge?
A lot. Very few cases actually go to trial.
Okay.
Most cases get settled out of court, either in mediation or sitting in the waiting area or the lobby of the courthouse. So very few cases actually go to trial. But
do you like that game of chicken?
I do. It's
because that's what it is, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
you're looking to see who blinks first.
Yeah, and it's good because it's better for the client in most cases, because you don't know what a judge is going to do.
Right.
So it's better for the client. It's stressful. It's
Right.
stressful not just for me, but it's stressful for the client too,
Right.
because they know if they're settling for something, they hope they're making the right decision.
Right.
So yeah, I do like it. It's good back and forth.
All right, Meaghan. So what failure or loss has helped mold you and shape the person that you are today?
So losing myself, which before I started this practice, that happened. Letting someone else dictate who I should be or how I should be in this profession was, in my opinion, one of my biggest failures. Letting someone else control that for me. So biggest failure that led to something so much greater, which, as you know, of facing things in your life, you
Right.
think it's the end of the world, right? Like that's miserable. You don't want to be there. You don't want to be in that situation. It's the end of the world. And then you realize, oh wait, it was a stepping stone to something else, or it was a building block for something else.
Right.
But that was my biggest failure. So
Was it a gradual? Did you see Did you see her gradually losing yourself, or did you wake up one day like, who the hell am I?
It was pretty quick.
Was it?
It was pretty quick. It happened pretty quickly, and which was really odd for me. And I had never really faced something like that before. I had faced some other things, but nothing that really knocked me down to where am I, what am I doing, and why am I doing this? I literally lost my why and contemplated, should I even be doing this anymore? Which was silly looking back, but yeah, biggest failure was completely losing myself and losing my belief essentially in myself.
Right. So Meaghan, where do you see yourself in your practice in 3 years and then in 10 years?
So 3 years, we're going to grow.
Don't grow too fast.
Hopefully still be here in Frederick. I don't intend to leave Frederick, but we'll be growing. Practice will still be going along as we are. We're doing really good things now. I want to keep that up, and I want to create this culture that I've talked about earlier. 10 years from now, I hope to be golfing more. Right. Maybe not practicing as much, but this drives me, and having some free time to myself would also be good. So 10 years, I hope to be golfing a little more instead of just standing in the courtroom every day.
Right. And then where, you mentioned in the beginning where we are, but specifically where are we? How do people get a hold of you? And more specifically, people watching and listening to this interview, who is a client that would seek you out? Somebody going through divorce, somebody that just lost a family, who's your client, and then give us where we are.
Sure, both of those things you just mentioned. Someone going through a divorce, or someone going through a custody situation or a child support situation, adoption. Also someone who's lost a family member who might not know how to navigate that estate administration process. All of us, you, me, everyone who doesn't have a will, who doesn't have a power of attorney, a healthcare directive, which is, a lot of people. Those would all be, clients that would try to contact me.
Okay.
So we are located at 129 Unit 1, West Patrick Street, right across from the courthouse. And you can also find us we're on Facebook at Delawter Law. We're on Instagram, website, delawterlaw.com. Right. So you're out there on social media, and also have the website set up. So
awesome. I love your little logo.
Thanks. A really good friend of mine designed that.
Oh, really?
Yep.
You did a good job.
Yep. Ryan Morris, who owns Crucible Performance.
Okay.
He's fantastic at graphic design also, so he designed the logo for me.
I love it. Listeners, viewers, I hope you enjoyed Meaghan's interview as
Thank
much
you.
as I did. Episode 159 of Frederick Advice Givers. Meaghan Delawter, D-Law, and J-Rock behind the camera, and we are out.